Hey, welcome to Crazy Bob. Today we're going to do a spark plug change on my B58 X4 G02 series. So without further ado, let me show what you need and let's get into it. So as you can see, I've gathered my tools. You will need a torque wrench that is comfortable at 23 Newton meters, because that's the torque for the spark plugs. You will need a reverse torque E12, which is that fella. You will need, of course, a ratchet, a couple of extensions, and a slim wall, 12 millimeter or 14 millimeter rather, which is a special. It's not a regular spark plug socket. It is thinner. And I'll show that to you here. As you can see, very thin. This one has a magnet inside to hold the spark plug. And aside from that, it's always a good idea to have fender covers. So I'm going to put the fender covers on to make sure I don't scratch anything. And according to BMW, we'll also need, hang on, poof, that right there. BMW recommends using some compressed air prior to removing the spark plugs to get any kind of crumbs and debris out of the spark plug hole. So let's get going. So before I get started, I want to cover up the front of the car. Is it overkill? You tell me. But the first time you put a scratch in your fender or have an unsightly little mark that you're going to look at for the rest of the time you own your car, you'll think of me and say, this is well worth it. So that's step number one. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the cover. It has 4 points. One here, one here, one here, and one here. A gentle tug right here, here, in the back, and it should pop right off. I've already done this, so here we go. You will hear a snap when you pull those off. So next, we have the engine bay. Not as pretty as it was just a moment ago with the cover. And if you take a look right here, these are our ignition coils. And I shout out a big, huge thank you to BMW, because on prior engines, for those of you that have done this on the older version of the X3 or X4, you will know that you had a plastic piece that went across the back here. You had to remove this. You had to remove this back plastic piece. There was a hose that ran across that you had to remove. All history. Now there's a simple flap. You slide that aside and you get to number 6. That easy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with number 1. So the first things we're going to need from our tools that we've gathered are small ratchet, our E8 reverse torques, and our pick tool and little screwdriver. So the first thing we want to do is loosen the coil pack. And don't worry about pulling it out, because it doesn't pull out. So you'll know you have it loose because it will sit there loosely like that. So next step. So the first thing we're going to do is take our little pick tool, go into here, and try to pry up. You may need to use the screwdriver to do this, and you'll notice it pops up. And next you should be able to pull this out. And they are a little bit of a bear, so you can get in here and kind of, there we go. And coil pack number 2 is off. Now getting it out, it's a good idea to maybe just try to jiggle it a little bit first, and then just straight up and out. Coil pack number 1 has been removed. Dun, dun, dun. Now, BMW states take an air compressor and blow a little air in there to get any debris or dust out. As you can see, it looks squeaky clean in there, so I'm probably going to go ahead and forego that step. So by hand, I'm going to go ahead and get in there, and when I know I'm in good, then I'm going to go ahead and take my ratchet. And remember, left is loose, right is tight, and there we go. And whenever I can, I work by hand. So let's pull it out and take a look. And there's our first spark plug. So before installing the new plug, you always want to do a quick side by side. So the plugs I'm using are NGK, and the old ones were Champions, and they still look pretty decent, but I'm not going to write it down later, but there's the nomenclature for the new NGK. You can pause the video if you need to get that. So what am I looking for? Thread length is the same, electrode looks the same, connectors at the top look the same, so I think I got the right plugs. You also want to make sure for heat ranges and whatnot that you have the right plugs. In my case, I confirmed that prior, so let's install them. So as you can see, these have a little magnetic holder, holds the spark plug in place. Have my wobble, and I'm going to go ahead and start this by hand. No matter what car you do, you always want to do this by hand. And then just thread it as far as possible. I've seen mistakes made. One of the most common being people lube the threads, or they do crazy stuff. I mean, it's just amazing what you see. I've seen people put Loctite on a spark plug. That's a bad idea. So there's as far as I can go by hand. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my torque wrench. The torque setting for these is 23 Newton meters. So we're going to go ahead and torque it and call it a day. And then we'll go to number 2. And after that, I think you know how it works. Then I'm going to do the rest on my own and won't let you watch. So I have my torque wrench set to 23 Newton meters. I'm going to smoothly turn until I hear that click. That's how you know you're there. And it doesn't feel real tight, but rest assured, BMWs know what they're talking about. So that's it, we're done. So we have our spark plug torqued. We're going to go ahead and place this back in. Some people talk about lubing the rubber up a little bit to make sure it comes out good the next time. I don't do any of that. I just get it back in there to where it should be. Go ahead and hand tighten that E8 first. And then go ahead and tighten it up. So when you tighten these things, I mean, these are very small bolts. You just basically, one finger, that's it, boom. That's as tight as this baby goes. And then you put your plug back in. Make sure to press the little green tab down to where it clicks into place. And we are done with number 1. So let's go to number 2. I'll repeat that process, and then I think you're good to go at that point. Now, I do recommend that you do these one at a time, by the way. Because if you do them all at once, not that it makes a difference, but you're mixing up coil packs, and the next thing you know, you got things in places, or you don't know how things go back together. So it's loose, as you can see. I've already pulled the little tab up and pulled the plug off again. Remember, press into right there with your little pick tool, pull up, and then pull the plug out. The first time you do this, that plug is actually a little bit of a bear. So, and then we're going to just kind of gently try to wiggle this up, and you'll feel when it starts to come. And there you go. Spark plug number 2 ready for the battle. And I will blow some compressed air prior to taking it out, just because BMW said so. I'll do it after all. And here we go. Make sure you wear goggles, because if there are crumbs in there, they can fly right in your face and into your eyes. And if we take a look down into the chamber real quick, where are we at? Right there. You can actually see there are some crumbs down in there. So I'm going to blow a little more compressed air prior to pulling that old spark plug out. Alright, spark plug number 2, here we go. Once you're clicked in there, remember, left is loose, right is tight. And once you get to a point where you can twist by hand. I prefer that. We have a lot more feeling in our fingers than the wrench does. And so it keeps you from doing bad things. It's just a good habit to be in. And they feel kind of strange coming out, which would make someone want to maybe put lube on it. Just do not do that. Do not put lube on these threads. They are the way they are. And you can take a look here. There's our spark plug. So I'm going to go ahead and put the second spark plug in. Again, do this by hand. That will make sure that you always have a good day and you're never cross-threading or doing bad things. So, in any case, we're going to go ahead and put this in by hand as far as we can go. And as much as you hate that squeaky sound, do not oil the threads of your new spark plugs. And now we're going to go ahead and use our torque wrench. And with as smooth as possible, once we get to a point where there's some resistance, I'm going to try to do this in one sweep as smooth as possible. And as soon as it gives me that click, I know I've tightened it to where it needs to be. I remove the torque wrench. We put our coil pack back in place. We know it came from number 2 because we're only doing one at a time here. And when it gets all the way down as far as it can go, thread your little reverse torque E8 as far as you can. And we are going to tighten it just a hair more than hand tight. Boom, there it is. And we put our plug back in. You'll hear a click, and then don't forget to press the little green fella in, and that's the full click. So that's how you do a spark plug change. When you get to number 6 in the back here, it is no different, with the difference that you can't look down the hole of the spark plug chamber, but all you do is remove this little plate out of the way, and it's just as easy. And you can move it in the other direction if that's a little more helpful. But that's it. That's how you do 3, 4, 5, 6. No shields to remove, no crazy actions to take. Thank you, BMW, for making a easy maintenance job out of changing spark plugs. So another thing I like to do is I keep my old plugs in order, and then I do a little inspection once I'm done. And so let's inspect these. That one actually looked pretty good. So if you have little flakes or metal spotting on there, that's not so good. But that one actually looked pretty good. That one actually looked pretty good. And the last one. So the part that's important here is the fact that they all looked nice and uniform. There was nothing crazy looking, no wetness, no oil. Those are things that would cause for concern. So everything looked good. Hey guys, so I hope this video helped. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up if you liked it, leave a comment if there's something I might have missed while doing this job, because I'm actually doing the job, not just, I am kind of doing it for you, but I'm just doing the job because the car needs spark plug change. If your car is tuned, by the way, you probably want to do this a little more frequently than 60, 70,000 miles. You want to do it a little earlier to avoid that old misfire. All right, so till next time, take care.